The story begins when a girl from the Niels Kingdom, Charlotte Evans, escapes during the night. She runs swiftly towards the forest, and some Niels Kingdom guards chase her, but in the dark, they lose track of Charlotte. As the guards stop at the edge of the forest, one of them realizes that they are at the territory of the Demon King. The guard warns his companion that the Demon King is a cruel hater of humans. Shortly after, another guard informs them that Charlotte has gone in a different direction, and all the guards follow suit. Behind a tree, Charlotte breathes a sigh of relief after overhearing the guards' conversation. Without much thought, she runs towards a building in the forest. Due to the pitch darkness, she fails to notice the steep path ahead, stumbles, and faints. The next day, a young wizard, Alan Crawford, often dubbed as the Demon King, reads the headlines in the newspaper about an unknown whereabouts of an evil woman. After reading the newspaper, Alan notices some animals gathering around something, prompting him to investigate. To his surprise, he finds a young girl unconscious. Alan lifts the poor girl, amazed at how light she feels. He wonders if she ran away from home or escaped from kidnappers. As a skilled wizard, Alan senses the presence of a Niels Kingdom guard lurking. Swiftly, Alan identifies the guard as originating from the Niels Kingdom. The guard signals his troops to surround Alan, who is carrying the unconscious girl. The guard demands Alan to surrender the accused girl, claiming that she has brought shame to their country. The guard offers a choice: surrender the girl, and Alan won't be harmed, but if he resists, they threaten no mercy. Mockingly, Alan indicates his inclination towards the unfortunate girl rather than the suspicious individuals. One guard suggests attacking simultaneously. Unexpectedly, Alan uses the Ice Blind spell, instantly halting the guard's assault. They freeze and fall. A gust of wind reveals Alan's distinctive black and white hair. One guard recognizes that the figure before them is the Great Demon King. With his magical prowess, Alan hypnotizes the guards to return to the kingdom, explaining that they spent the night traversing the forest and were attacked by monsters, losing track of the girl in the process. Alan carried Charlotte and took her to his home, where Charlotte remained unconscious. Alan looked at Charlotte and mumbled about why such an innocent girl could be considered a criminal warranting national intervention. He reopened the newspaper he had read earlier about the wanted evil woman. Alan suspected that all of this was a conspiracy from the Niels Kingdom. Charlotte woke up, confused about the person in front of her. After being given a drink by Alan, she recounted the events of the previous night. Charlotte had escaped into a forest to evade the pursuing guards, and just before she fell, she saw a house in the forest, which turned out to be Alan's home. Alan showed Charlotte the newspaper article about the wanted woman. However, Charlotte dismissed it, asserting that she was not the one who committed the crimes. Alan approached her, staring into her eyes to confirm if Charlotte was telling the truth. Charlotte's sincere gaze convinced Alan that she was speaking honestly. Subsequently, Alan inquired why Charlotte became a target for the kingdom's guards. Charlotte began to tell her story. On a royal banquet day, Prince Cecil, Charlotte's fiancé, announced that he had investigated various crimes supposedly committed by Charlotte. However, none of the mentioned crimes were ever committed by her. Charlotte was powerless to say anything, and all the invited guests could not deny Prince Cecil's statements. During the banquet, Prince Cecil declared Charlotte a traitor to the country, and to make matters worse, he announced the cancellation of their engagement. Prince Cecil promptly ordered the guards to drag Charlotte to the palace's prison. Hearing this story, Alan was convinced that it was a conspiracy, considering Charlotte's background as a child of a concubine, or perhaps because Prince Cecil had already fallen in love with another one. After sharing her story, Charlotte thanked Alan for saving someone like her and promised not to trouble him anymore. Before she could finish her farewell, Alan unexpectedly offered Charlotte a job as a maid in his house. Of course, Charlotte declined, feeling unworthy since she was a kingdom fugitive. Alan pondered for a moment, as living in the forest to avoid humans and hiding fugitives was not his principle. However, he was reminded of the betrayal story from his past. Alan shared the tale of betrayal with Charlotte, a childhood friendship that turned out to be a lie. He joined friends in adventurous activities, only to be used to open a temple seal, and when his friends took the treasure, he was left with a horde of monsters ready to devour him. Hearing this, Charlotte was shocked and considered deceiving a friend to be very wicked. Alan was moved by Charlotte's belief in his story without any doubt. He realized Charlotte was a genuinely kind and sincere girl. Alan couldn't ignore Charlotte because her story mirrored his own experiences, where everyone ignored him and no one saved him. However, Alan's words couldn't sway Charlotte. She couldn't accept Alan's offer to become a maid. Finally, Alan took a decisive step, using a death spell. If Charlotte didn't accept his offer within 3 minutes, Alan's heart would stop beating. Hearing this, Charlotte became scared, and reluctantly, she decided to accept the offer because she didn't want to see the person who saved her die because of her mistake. The first day as a maid went well for Charlotte. Alan seemed surprised that a royal could handle household chores. Charlotte explained that she was used to doing such tasks. For a moment, Alan remembered Charlotte's slightly rough hands, making him confident that Charlotte, as a royal, was just a status. In reality, she was not much different from a palace servant. Charlotte still felt uneasy because all her tasks required Alan's magical assistance, such as moving objects and trash. However, Alan praised her, stating that without Charlotte, he wouldn't be motivated to clean and tidy up his house. After everything was done, Alan released Charlotte to do other things until dinner. Alan offered her to tend to the garden and read books in his library. Seeing Alan's magnificent library with neatly arranged books, Charlotte felt impressed. Alan instructed Charlotte not to disturb him while he worked in his library. Alan engaged in his hobby, correcting magic thesis, and referred to himself as the Red Demon Pen, scaring Academy people with his corrections. As the day began to fade, Alan stood up from his seat and turned around. He was momentarily surprised to see Charlotte behind him, counting wooden fibers on the floor up to the 25,012. Alan felt puzzled, wondering who in their right mind would do such a foolish thing. Charlotte innocently mentioned that earlier Alan had told her to do anything during her free time, so she decided to count wooden fibers on the floor while waiting for Alan to finish his work. Alan became curious if Charlotte had any hobbies and what she did in her leisure time back at the palace. Charlotte explained that she didn't have any hobbies at all. She only did cleaning and embroidery. Everything Charlotte did seemed joyless, and every day she often made mistakes, getting scolded by the kingdom's people. Moreover, Charlotte rarely received an adequate portion of meals. To make matters worse, the only fond memory Charlotte had was the gift of almost rotten fruits from Natalia, Charlotte's sister. Alan recalled the enjoyable things he had experienced, such as asking numerous questions during magic class with professors, occasionally causing magical potion experiments to explode at his school, and much more. While he was having fun with life, on the other side, there was someone who didn't have any hobbies or pleasant memories at all. With great optimism, Alan decided to teach Charlotte various mischievous activities. Nevertheless, Charlotte had to experience the pleasures that existed in this world. In the evening, Alan returned carrying various shopping items that filled the dining table. Charlotte felt uneasy because earlier, Alan admitted not having much money. But Alan said that he managed to sell his magic potions at a quite high price. Alan also promised to give Charlotte a crash course on the world's mischievous activities. And of course, this was the first step to make Charlotte happy. Charlotte, who previously lived under strict rules in the kingdom, made her innocent, disciplined, and obedient. Charlotte admitted that she obeyed because the people in the kingdom had taken care of her. However, on the other hand, Alan saw that such a relationship was not a healthy family relationship, but rather a subordinate and employer relationship. Alan emphasized that what he would teach later was about legal joys that could be addictive. Instantly, he opened all the shopping he brought from the town. The table was filled with various types of cakes, candies, and other sweets, along with wine. Charlotte, accustomed to living by the rules of the kingdom, did not want to have dinner with various cakes and sweets. Once again, Alan persuaded her with a little coercion to eat the dishes. Alan also reminded her that now Charlotte worked for him and had to obey his orders. Finally, Charlotte agreed to eat and asked Alan to accompany her. At first, Alan didn't want to because he didn't like sweet foods. But with Charlotte's gentle persuasion, he agreed to eat together. The first bite of the cake made Charlotte cry, and Alan felt bad if the cake didn't suit Charlotte's taste. But Charlotte cried because she was touched that someone would do all this for her. She had never been treated kindly by others before. Charlotte asked Alan if she deserved this happiness, and Alan promptly wiped the tears from Charlotte's cheeks and reassured her. Alan promised to always provide delicious food, take Charlotte to beautiful places, and always make her feel joy and happiness until Charlotte felt that her life was valuable. Alan vowed that as long as Charlotte was by his side, he would teach her the mischievous ways of the world for her happiness. Even though Alan was someone who was not very good at socializing, he would try very hard.